off. Adjust the system, not the goal. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. You shouldn't just be changing the goal because it didn't work out. You should be looking at how you went about getting there. What can you do to put yourself in a better position to succeed? Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Deirdre here, and today we are talking about consistency. We're hopping right into why it matters, what you need to do to stay consistent, and how to stay consistent even when you're not seeing results, even when it seems pointless. Everyone says consistency is key, right? But what if it's unlocking the wrong door? What does it look like when your consistency is misdirected, and how do you redirect that and become more clear in what you are trying to create, whatever goal you are trying to achieve? We all know that consistency is hard, but you know what's harder? Starting over again and again and again. As someone diving into the motivational speaking world and just the world of like growth and change and sharing my journey of that while hoping to help others, I find it really hard sometimes when I hear other people be very vague with things like their pathway to success. And that is one of the reasons why I've created this page. I want to be real. I want to have a real conversation about all the things. And so when it comes to consistency, we need to have a real conversation about what it looks like to fail in that, what it looks like to succeed, what it looks like when you do fail, what it looks like when you're not seeing the results you want, and how that can be challenging, but how it can also be 100% worth it. So why does consistency even matter? I think the simple answer that we all know is consistency compounds and creates big impact over time. It's not just the one workout that you do, but it's the 45 that you don't skip that leads you to these amazing results that you're looking for. The most satisfying results are going to have a delayed reward. And you have to get okay with that. You have to set aside your instant gratification needs and allow yourself to wait for a future grand reward, if that makes sense. Think of it like planting a seed. You put something in action and you continuously water it every day. And it might take a month, it might take 3 months. It might even take a year for you to reap the rewards, for you to see that plant grow and bloom and flower in the way that you want it to. And I think the beautiful thing about consistency that people do forget, outside of the reward that is rewarding, is the habits and the identity that you are creating for yourself along the way. Building consistency is also building self-trust. It's building integrity. It's allowing yourself to have confidence in the goals that you are creating, the habits that you are building, the things that you are doing. Integrity isn't just about having a good conscience or a, moral code, supposedly. I think it's about showing up for the person you are trying to become. I love the inner child metaphor because if you look at it from that perspective, would the younger version of yourself be proud of the woman that you've become? Be proud of the man that you've become? Would they be proud to see the things you are doing? Would they be inspired by you? Being consistent in any one thing will help you become that person. Now, this next question is something I always ask myself because I would beat myself for not being consistent. I'm like, why is it so hard to stay consistent? Why is it so difficult for me to get up and do this shit every freaking day? And let me tell you why. Most of the things that surround us in this day and age do not help our ability to stay consistent. We are filled with a world of distractions. We are filled with a world that is trying to take our attention at every moment. We are filled with a world that tries to give you that instant gratification. So you have these high dopamine hits that feel good in the moment. But because of this, you are less inclined to do things that are going to give you the long-term gratification because you've been so easily given these moments where you can have the instant. Why would you want to wait for that? And even more so, you look at others' success sometimes as if they received that with instant gratification. We have this idea that everybody is an industry plant. No, they're not. Let's stop assuming that everybody just gets lucky. Let's stop assuming that there isn't work, that there isn't consistency, that there isn't a system behind the success of people that have made it. Yes, we can say here and there, sometimes it was luck. And a lot of the times, those lucky instances don't result in a longevity of success for that person. Because if it was lucky, oftentimes they didn't have the systems, the consistency, the plan set in place for when that opportunity arose. Now, hopefully they got it together quick enough so where they did have long-term success. But this is what I'm saying. Don't assume that every single person you are seeing that is succeeding just did that like that. I know social media will give you these highlight reels of people's lives that make you want that immediately, but you have to look behind the scenes. You have to look at the reality of it. So that makes it hard. And then you have motivation. Consistency is hard when you don't have discipline. Consistency is hard when you only choose to be motivated and you don't take action. I know I'm here motivationally speaking to y'all, but I hope that this motivation leads you into action that creates discipline. I hope what I talk about not only inspires you in your head, but inspires you to have the steps and do the things that are going to help you become better. Consistency is hard because when you don't see results, you let the self-doubt creep in. When you don't see results, you let the perfectionism creep in and make you think that you're not doing things right. And your brain just starts telling you all these stories that aren't true. You have to put things in place for yourself so that you can stay consistent even when you're not seeing results. Our environment creates so much of who we are, and I hate to say it, but unfortunately, a lot of the environments and conditioning that we've grown up with haven't been at our best interest as a individual human, as a society. And we can see that if you just look at it, it's looking pretty sick. I don't know about y'all, but it doesn't look good. And you can see how some of that is purposeful. You can see how we've been taught in school what matters most, what we value, all these things. Obviously, if you have a good parental unit, a good family unit that you grew up with, that conditioning can look different. And I feel like it looked different for me because of how my parents raised me, but not everyone gets that. Not everyone is in a positive, beneficial space that fosters their growth. So we have to create systems, processes, methods, things that will help us unlearn those negative thoughts that are just naturally going to arise and help us focus in more on a better mindset for ourselves. So one of those things being our desire for instant gratification. My generation is probably the last that grew up having no social media and having social media. So I know it's going to be 10 times harder for Gen Alpha, but even us now have a addiction to social media. We have to wean off of it. Like, we have no choice. And obviously it's all around us. But once you are able to lessen that addiction for instant gratification, you will see how easy it becomes to be consistent. Last week, I started this challenge where I would only allow myself to be on social media when I was choosing to post for my businesses, for my content creation, and when I was responding to friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't consume media other than, you know, me and my roommates right now are watching Love Island, so I'm watching that. Other than like a carved out set amount of time for myself. I'm someone who used to love to have like, you know, a show in the background while I'm baking, while I'm doing work. I had to stop that because my focus was all out of whack. Every time I wanted to take a break, I wanted to go on social media. But that also fucks with your mentality and what it feels like to rest, because honestly, social media was not the rest that I was needing. When I would go on social media throughout my day during my breaks, I would end my day after work and feel like I didn't actually rest at all. And instead, when I chose to replace that with maybe taking time to cook myself a dinner, maybe sitting there and actually doing nothing, maybe going out for a walk, it actually both allowed myself to focus better at completing a task in the moment, getting it done faster, as well as reprioritize what my like mental health and wellness is, because now I'm doing more of the things that are actually making me feel good instead of the things that I just think I want in the moment because I want to laugh. I want this. Like, guys, it's great to laugh. No problem. Like, do it. But at the same time, too much of it is detrimental. I literally used to wake up every day, immediately go to TikTok, immediately go to Instagram. And I just realized yesterday that for the past 3 days, I haven't even had the thought or desire to open up those apps in the morning. And I was like, wow, like what a moment to celebrate, because I don't know, the addiction is real. So honestly, that's my first little tip when it comes to consistency. If that's something that you're interested in doing, try to take a media detox. That doesn't just mean social media either. If you feel like you're watching too much TV, too many movies, like, I like to think that media entertainment is important and it can be prioritized in a way that allows you to have fun and enjoyment, but too much of anything is never good. Now, when we look at consistency and its difficulty when it comes to the career side, when it comes to the professional goals, consistency can be hard when you're not seeing the results, as I've said. But let me give you a few examples on people who stayed consistent with no results for so long and became some of the biggest people in their industry today. Steve Carell spent over a decade acting with no big breakthrough. It wasn't until his 40s that he played in the first movie that made him a household name, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. J.K. Rowling, a single mom on welfare who literally was rejected by 12 publishers until, what book could you guess? Harry Potter changed everything. Vera Wang, who is now a global fashion icon, didn't release her first collection until she was 40 years old. And there are many other stories, but I think that just shows that success doesn't always come early, but it does come with consistency. What's important is knowing your worth and the value that you have to offer before anyone else does. Because while Steve Carell acted for a decade before he got his big breakthrough, if he didn't believe in himself, if he didn't continue to hone his craft, if he didn't stay consistent, that opportunity would have never walked through the door. As long as you stay consistent, you are leaving a door open for someone to see what you have to offer, for someone to take a chance on you. If you don't show up, no one is going to see the amazing things that you're doing, the amazing things that you have to offer, the amazing things that you want to create, for that door to open, for that opportunity to walk through. Now, I titled the video this way because consistency is always seen as the way to success, right? But what if consistency is misdirected? What if consistency is unclear? I love Einstein's quote, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results." But when you break that down, the truth is, consistency isn't what's holding people back, it's direction. Showing up every day means nothing if you're pouring it into the wrong things, if you aren't aligned with something that matters to you. It becomes powerful when you align it with self-awareness, strategy, and a willingness to pivot. Because you should keep showing up, but each time it should be smarter. There was a moment in my content creation journey where I really had to look at what I was making and why I was making it. I loved having fun and creating fluffy lifestyle content, which, I felt I was pretty good at, but it kind of felt pointless. Not because I wasn't seeing traction in, viewership, but because I'm someone who truly can't do anything without intention behind it. And it's a love-hate thing I have about myself. And I'll say that applies only from a perspective of like posting online or doing things that I'm creating goals within my life for. Of course, being creative and truly enjoying it is fun, and I allow that through my baking page where I do dessert recipes, but I realized that through seeing influencers that I do enjoy watching, I was trying to recreate a brand that wasn't me, that didn't fit who I wanted to show up as online. This is one of many examples of how consistency can be misdirected. Consistency in posting online, but in not aligning with your purpose or goals. Consistency chasing validation and not fulfillment. Consistency in working hard at a job that just drains you. So it's always important to ask yourself a clarifying question. Ask yourself, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? What do I want to see? And how is this benefiting me or the people around me? And as someone who has tattooed a little tree on myself to symbolize growth, I always like to ask myself, are you being consistent in growth, or are you just comfortable in routine? So let's really get into the nitty-gritty. I hope I could break down some of your previous thought processes on consistency, how to, make it a little bit easier, but I want to give you clear tips tips on how to build consistency. 1, start small. If you're not good at it already, don't try to start doing 4 things and being consistent with them all at once. For me, that was morning meditations. Waking up every morning and giving myself a little bit of time to, pull up a little video, do a morning breathing exercise, whatever it is. 2, set visual cues. Put some sticky notes on your mirrors in the morning. Put a reminder in your phone. One thing I did was putting a reminder on my phone every few hours because I wanted to work on my mindfulness throughout the day, my ability to redirect my thoughts and just stay focused. So, all of our phones have it. Set that reminder app up and put in there whatever it is you want to affirm to yourself or whatever it is you're trying to consistently remind yourself to do. Put it in the phone and listen to that damn ding. Don't ignore it. Do it. 3, celebrate the small wins. This one is important, and it's about tracking your progress and not being perfect. A TED Talk that I watched one time that I loved was about how you should be focusing more on the habits than the goal. Focus on what you are doing day to day and how that's making you feel and your ability to stay consistent with it instead of constantly obsessing over that final result, that number of pounds you want to lose, that amount of money that you want to make. I love that because it helps you realize the value in those actions and not just achieving the result. Even when the results aren't apparent, doing something for 5 days every day or every other day for 3 weeks both boosts your confidence in yourself and your ability to keep the promise that you made to yourself and gives you a reason to celebrate. Number 4, pair the thing that you're trying to stay consistent with that you may not love with something fun. Cleaning has been something that I've been so hard trying to be consistent with, especially my room. So when it comes to that, I need some music. I will put on the headphones and I will lock in because once I have music and I can dance while I'm cleaning up, that makes everything better and it makes everything go by 10 times faster. And then it becomes something that's not so undesirable in my mind because, I'm jamming out. I'm just having a dance jam session at home by myself. And so once you align something, it's kind of like what's that freaking conditioning method that they did, the psychology experiment, not Maslow's, what's it called? It's gonna piss me off if I can't. Maybe it is Maslow's dog conditioning, whatever the fuck it is. You guys know what I'm talking about, when they would do positive reinforcement by attaching something nice to something bad. It kind of reinforces your mind it reinforces you to feel good about something that you previously didn't feel good about. So 5, find an accountability partner. If you have things that you want to stay consistent with, that you have friends who want to do the same or professional colleagues, do it with them or have them as an accountability partner because now you're feeling a little bit more pressure to show up for that other person as well and not just yourself. And 6, last but not least, you need to reframe your failure. Missing a day does not mean starting over. Don't shame yourself. Don't pity. Just restart. Because restarting is the consistency. But also look into why you fell off. Adjust the system, not the goal. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. This quote by James Clear exemplifies how a lot of the times you shouldn't just be changing the goal because it didn't work out. You should be looking at how you went about getting there. What can you do to put yourself in a better position to succeed? Work smarter, not harder. For me, when it came to my room and it's staying cluttered and dirty, I'm not gonna say dirty, I'm gonna say messy because I'm not dirty, but it came to clothes. Clothes were the bane of my existence. I could not keep that shit off my floor, off my chairs, off my desk. And that was because anytime I wanted to take something off, I wanted to throw it on there instead of putting it away immediately. So in my mind, I was I'll just put it away later. But then that later turned into a week, and I did that every day. Now I have a pile of 10 clothes on the counter. Whereas if I chose in that moment to make it easier on myself, my room would stay clean throughout the week instead of having to spend now an hour of my time at the end of the week or 2 hours to get everything back in its place. That is how you put put yourself in the position to succeed. You start doing things in the moment where you can reduce the time, where you can reduce the ability for you to fail in the future. And that's also just a reminder that the smallest changes yield the biggest results over time. One thing I always hated about 75 Hard is that most people who start it would never finish it and would never grow to create any consistency because they needed to restart as soon as they missed one day. In the end, I think many more would have finished instead of failing if they chose to allow themselves to miss a day once a week, miss 2 days once a week. Because in the end, you'd still have more days working out, staying consistent with a healthy diet than you would otherwise. Creating immense growth and progress in your health and wellness instead of quitting overall because you couldn't get yourself past day 10. So to wrap everything up, I just hope you have a different view on consistency. I hope you don't see it as something scary. A lot of us do see consistency as something scary. Think of it as showing up as someone you admire. Sometimes the rewards aren't external. Sometimes every reward in life isn't external. It could be becoming someone you admire. Sometimes I like to look at myself and say, do I admire the things that I'm doing in life? Would I want to be that girl's friend? Do I show up in the ways that would inspire others? Because then I can look at it from an external perspective, and if not, change the habits or the things in my life that I feel like would make me be that person. Nara Smith recently did an interview where she talked about how she doesn't wear sweatpants and she likes to dress up every day, get cute, get ready, because that makes her most productive. She knows what works for her. She knows what systems she needs to put in place to make sure she gets the shit she needs done. So when it comes to consistency and creating these habits, it's all about finding what works for you. Now, I personally can do anything well in a pair of sweatpants, but if I haven't planned for my week or the day in some way, shape, or fashion, things never go as smoothly as I'd like them to. When I don't, I can still get stuff done, but it's never going to be as good, or my work is never going to be as, what do you say? At least in the photography world, because I'm a food photographer, as pristine as they should be. So you need to find out what are those things in your life that help you become more consistent, that allow you to easily stay on track with the habits or the goals that you're creating in life. And once you do, just be honest with yourself and say, okay, I must do that if I want other things to go more smoothly. And I also want to look at the side of consistency that brings back our humanity, our imperfections, and the realism to this conversation. We are not machines, which is why the idea of consistency can seem a bit unrealistic, right? I agree, life is not linear, energy fluctuates, we have seasons for a reason, and our circumstances shift and change, especially in this chaotic thing we call life. So we all need to give ourselves grace, we all need to give ourselves rest when necessary. And it's important to step back when you do need clarity. Don't just continue to be consistent on something that doesn't make sense for you anymore. But I think there's a balance between the two. That's why we have vacations, which I wish our work weeks allowed more of. But when I recently went on a vacation, I realized that the consistency that I've built always brings me back to the desire of wanting to continue on routine after I finished a vacation. After having that rest, I almost have an itch to get back into doing the things that I love, to work on the things that I'm creating. And once you have built some sort of consistency in your life, that is going to be a natural inclination that just happens for you. So I ask you, if you came to this video, I'm sure there's one thing. What is the one thing you want to get consistent in right now? I love to hear about it in the comments below. Tell me, and whatever you comment down below, once you mark that in ink, you mark that in social media footprint, that is your promise to yourself that you are going to focus in and work on that thing. And maybe I'll try to throw in some tips if I have any for that thing that you guys are trying to build consistency in. I haven't built consistency in every little thing I do yet in my life, which we'll see if that's even possible. I feel like that might be a little too crazy. Like I said, we have balance. Focus on the things that you want to build consistency in. Everything doesn't have to have that in my mind. And I'd like to end this with a reminder, a little quote. You are not behind, you are building, so don't rush the foundation. And with that, wherever you're at, whatever time it is, good morning, good evening, good night. Love ya. Goodbye.